Overrated Experience. I'm your host, Kyle London. Overrated Experience, for you new listeners out there, is the sports gambling podcast meant for the square better. The square better that is basically the amateur looking to have fun, put a few dollars, not a big wagers, looking for that next game on TV to place some dollars on. Not a pro in any way. So this is this podcast for you, in hopes that we both learn as we go along this journey here on the Overrated Experience, that we become better bettors, and maybe we do make a few dollars here and there. But the Overrated Experience can also be followed on Twitter. Just follow at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated Experience. Follow at Overrated capital EXPER2 on Twitter. Love to hear your thoughts, and please join us and send us your thoughts. Just open up the show today. We'll talk about a few things, some news and notes about the gambling world in relation to sports. Also, a lot of picks on the docket today. A lot of picks involving football, some hockey, some even Grey Cup action. A lot going on. We'll run through. We'll make this more of a pick-heavy day, but what we'll do is we'll first kick it off from the Thursday nighter, Green Bay, Tennessee. Tennessee does wind up winning 27-17. What does that mean? That means the Packers are pretty much finished. Aaron Rodgers, although had I think a pretty good game, some strong throws against Dallas the week previous, where they had two multiple comebacks, is done. They're done. The Tennessee Titans took it to them yesterday. The Green Bay Packer offense is just not explosive enough, or at least some of the receivers have come along too late, and I think they're too far behind to make any ground up. They're done. So look for the Packers. I'm curious to know what this will do to Aaron Rodgers and how he plays the rest of the way, knowing that the playoffs are not going to be there, and curious if he how his attitude is, ripping his teammates, or maybe becomes a good teammate. Who knows? But the Packers are done. But as a good performance by Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, second game back after his ankle issues, really threw the ball well. Some big third down throws, some fourth down plays. Derrick Henry was Derrick Henry. He even had a passing touchdown, which was a great play in the red zone. So Tennessee on the up, Green Bay on the down. All right. So now going into some gambling-related news, some interesting stuff out in the sports world. For those baseball fans out there, Dodger fans specifically, former Dodger Yasiel Puig, formerly the Dodgers, Reds, and Cleveland Indians at the time, currently was playing in Mexico, South Korea, still out there. He pled guilty this week to federal prosecutors in the U.S. State Department for his role of involvement in a illegal sports betting ring. Now, his role was that he was a participant, he was a gambler, and when first interviewed by federal agents, he basically was caught lying on what his involvement was, and that's kind of where his trouble began. And because of that lie, he negotiated a deal. We don't know how long or what the penalty is going to be for him, but technically it can be a maximum of 5 years. I would doubt he was going to receive 5 years in prison for that, but we'll see. I'm almost thinking if his name wasn't Yasiel Puig, former LA Dodger, that he would even be, looked at, or nobody would give a damn. But he's definitely a poster child to show that, the evidence that the U.S. government will come down hard for those who are not playing ball or being straight with them. But also interesting was that the U.S. Justice Department release said that Puig lost nearly $283,000 between the months of May and June of 2019. May and June of 2019, $283,000. That's insane. So, obviously, I think his losses were penalty enough, but apparently not. So we'll see what happens to him. This story that I'm getting is from the New York Post, so I'll give them credit. So interesting stuff there. But that's don't. He's getting charged with, or his involvement with the same thing each and every one of us do. And that is lay a bet on a baseball game, a basketball game, a football game. The only difference is he went to the unregulated market. He didn't choose to use one of the government sites, which I guess in 2019 wasn't even available to him. But you watch this to become a trend. This will be a trend that if you're not playing ball in whatever state that you did not follow regulation, and you're starting to still run those numbers and run your sports book, they're going to come down hard on you. They're not getting the piece of the tax dollar action. You will be severely penalized and made an example of, just like in this scenario. So interesting, but I don't think this is the last story we're going to hear about a topic like that. Another interesting story involving the world of sports is for you footy fans out there. Brentford striker Ivan Toney. So Ivan Toney, if you don't know, has 10 goals already this year. He was actually brought over to the England national team, which, because of his great season, he never actually played. But you got to think that part of his reason for being excluded from this year's World Cup team, or at least consideration, has to do with this story. And that is that the FA, the Football Association in England, is going to be charging Ivan Toney with some sort of issues that he's had by placing bets between 2017 and 2021. It's quite a lengthy period of time. That somehow did not follow, obviously, the rules that they are forbidden for betting football. And when I say football, I'm talking about English football or European football. And we don't know what his penalty is going to be, but he's probably going to face a severe suspension, maybe fines. It's not the first footballer that has been involved with helping the gambling world out. Some of the other examples include, letting friends know that your intimate move from the transfer window where people can bet on, or place some sort of wagers or get some sort of advantage. But Ivan Toney, young striker, he's only 26, one of the bright stars of the EPL, is in a little hot water. So hopefully, he'll get through that and be on his way and back scoring goals. But not anytime soon. And another story is that the state of Maryland, so if you're not familiar with the state of Maryland, picture Baltimore. Baltimore is in the state of Maryland. Maryland is going to go live. They're going to become part of the newest state on, November 21st is considered, I don't even know what this means, a soft launch, where I guess people can sign up on November 21st, but November 23rd is the first real go live date, where folks in that state will be able to sign up to the various accounts in time for Thanksgiving football and maybe the World Cup that's coming up. And also exciting times there for Maryland, just another state looking to collect some tax money and regulate the sports world. And I forgot to mention, one of the big things to look forward to, we're going to do a special podcast that is, for a World Cup preview. And I hope to record that tomorrow with our boy Johnny Charts. And we're going to run through many things in the World Cup, which is the biggest event in the world. And that includes looking at who we think is going to come out of each of the groups, who maybe are golden boot value plays, and who may wind up winning the whole tournament. But we're really going to try to break it down as best we can and give you the public some things to think about going into the tournament. These games, because it's in Qatar, they're going to be very early for a lot of these games. Some of them are going to start at 5 a.m. England is playing at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Most of the bars here in Ontario look like they're opening up so they can serve alcohol earlier in the morning, so those fans can get out there and cheer their nation on. And keep in mind, in Canada, we got a good tradition of many of these countries across the world being supported. From second generation Canadians, first generation folks that are proud of their nations and get out there and support. It's actually a great time in the city, and this time in a long time where Canada's actually involved. So always a fun time, always a great event, and the bars will be full. So we definitely love it here in TO, and it's going to start on Sunday. So the World Cup preview, look for it for tomorrow as a special episode we'll bring to you, again, with our boy Johnny Charts. All right, moving on to the traditional podcast here of looking at what's ahead in Week 12. Oh my God, we're in Week 12 of the NFL. This season is flying by. So some weird, events. Buffalo struggling. Buffalo is actually going to be on the road. 6 feet of snow going on in Buffalo right now, so no way that they can play that game against the Browns. But let's see what we got here to talk about for our news and notes on the NFL. All right. So we're gonna have a lot of games here. I'm just gonna go through it all. I decided to not hold back this week and minimize it. Let's have some fun here. Let's put some real dollars on the line. So starting out with Baltimore hosting the Carolina Panthers. Looking at what are the value plays here. The value play that stands out to me is I hate taking a Carolina side here, but I'm going to take the Carolina running back Donta Foreman. Over 56.5 rushing yards. Now, he had over 100 last week against Atlanta. I think they're going to hand him the rock a lot. At least 57 yards worth of handoffs. I think Baltimore is going to win this game, but not before Foreman gets at least 57 yards. So put that down, minus 110. That's really all the play I have in that game. Chicago-Atlanta, really a nothing game. Atlanta really disappointed me, losing to the Carolina Panthers last week. I didn't see that coming. I thought they would have taken care of business. They didn't. But I'm going to look at Justin Fields under 176.5 yards. He's hit that mark maybe 3 times throughout the season so far. I think he's going to rely on his legs. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't see him pushing past 177 yards of passing in this game. So out of that game, nothing much really going on other than that play for the under for Fields and his passing yards. One of the bigger games of the day, like I talked about just a little bit earlier, Buffalo, which have this game scheduled in Buffalo against Cleveland, is now going to be playing out of Detroit. So they're going to be taking on the Browns on a neutral field. But yes, it might be a neutral field, but we're talking about a covered stadium for Josh Allen, weather not being an issue. So I'm gonna bank on that 275.5 passing yards is way too low and take the over. I am not saying that Josh Allen is going to hit 300 yards each week, but the odds are in 17 games of an NFL season, he's going to hit it at least 75% of the time. So you might as well ride the Josh Allen train until otherwise he doesn't. And also Buffalo at 7.5. What does Cleveland really have? They got a great, obviously, running game, great D, but you tell me you can't see Buffalo winning by 10 or more points in this game. So I would definitely take the Bills at minus 7.5, but also a great teaser opportunity to bring this line down a $1.50. That you need the Bills win. That should be a gimme. Also, we got Detroit and New York. Lions taking on the Giants heading in. New York is only on minus 3 against the Lions. You tell me that the Lions game against Chicago last week was was a difference maker. The Giants are on a roll. The Giants got things going. They're playing at home. I think they're more of a 5.5, 6 point favorite against the Lions. I'll take the Giants in this one, no problem. All right, moving on to a team that has nowhere to go, season over. The LA Rams take on the New Orleans Saints. At least the New Orleans Saints knew that their season was over a while back. So these teams really got nothing going on. So this is where you start questioning what is their motivation? What is the organization's motivation? From the Rams' point of view, you think about one of the impact players like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald was questionable to even come back this year after winning the Super Bowl. Where's his mind at? If he's going to come back next year, is he really going to go all out and risk the health of his body to risk going into next year and or any sort of nagging injury that would reduce any of the impact of any money he's going to make? I don't think so. I think Aaron Donald's a winner. He's going to put up a great effort, but he's not going to put that Super Bowl type effort where everything is on the line to break his back. I got a feeling that that's going to be something to watch as the season progresses. And same with like Jalen Ramsey. Like what's his motivations right now? So I look at this as the Alvin Kamara show. Alvin Kamara can just explode on teams. So I'm going to stick with his props, and I'm going to talk about, he's plus 100 to score a touchdown at any time. Why not Alvin Kamara? He's going to get the rock plenty here. So put some few shillings on that. Also, a rush plus receiving yards. Alvin Kamara, 96.5. I'm taking the over. If you think, like I do, that he's going to have a day, then guess what? He has explosive plays. He's going to bring it, and I think he's going to shatter 100 yards, total yards, no problemo. Jets, New England. Douchebag, Zach Wilson going into New England to try to outthink and outplay the defensive capabilities of Bill Belichick, which is not going to happen. So this is why I'm resting on a good bet here that under Bet365, you have something called player interception milestones, and Zach Wilson to throw 2 interceptions is plus 230, and 3 is plus 825. I would not be shocked if he has multiple interceptions, and I think it's a good value play to put, a few dollars here and there, at least for me, on both the 2 interceptions and the 3+ interceptions. I think there is value. So take it. Douchebag Zach Wilson is a fraud, and I think you'll see Joe Flacco at some point not too long in the distant future. Interesting matchup. Philadelphia takes on the Indianapolis Colts. Philadelphia coming off their first loss of the season on Monday night against the Washington Commanders. I was following on my phone. I was too busy watching the second Black Panther, which, by the way, I would give it a 9 out of 10 and recommend. Great story, and they recovered well with the changing characters they had to make due to the death of Chadwick, the original Black Panther. So great job there. I digress. I'll flip back to the game here. So Philadelphia coming off a loss. Indy with the big win. Jeff Saturday's first win. What I thought was interesting was he had Matt Ryan back in. Probably the smart play. Very smart play. So why at home would Indy at plus 7 not be a decent play? I think Philly wins this game. I feel that way, but I think that the Colts maybe got a little resurgent there, and I think they'll cover that plus 7. And I think there'll be a few points in this game. So I'm not afraid to take that 45.5. I'm not afraid at all. So count me in on that one. Moving on. Washington visits Houston. Now, Washington coming off that big win. They are 5-5, and the Houston Texans are awful. Can you count on Washington? No. But if you look at, the situation, here's their value. I think Washington minus 160 fits well in a 2-team parlay of your choice. So I would still take Washington straight up in a small parlay with another game. I haven't decided what game that would be just yet, but give me the Commanders over the Texans. Las Vegas, Denver, what a nothing game. And here's another situation where I see a low over-under 40.5 in Denver, and I'm thinking a division rival. Can they not just put a few points on the board? I mean, Las Vegas, Denver, they got the firepower. Their quarterbacks are struggling badly, but I'm going to take the over anyway. And same as Cincinnati visiting Pittsburgh. I mean, Cincinnati puts up points. I don't know what Pittsburgh does. They put up a few points. They throw the ball. They give up points. I think 40.5 is way too low for this game. I think we'll see a few points here. Dallas and Minnesota. I do not understand why Minnesota is a dog in this game. And if you took Minnesota money line, they're plus 105. Minnesota just came off the game, arguably the game of the year against the Buffalo Bills last week. Ups and downs in that game. Big plays, big catches, impactful offensive plays. Kirk Cousins to Jefferson. Big interception in overtime on Josh Allen. What is Dallas providing you that tells you that they're better than Buffalo after the bad coaching decisions and the performance they gave up on Sunday against Green Bay? I don't understand why the line is the way it is, but this probably is a result of the Cowboys being America's team, and that we're going to take our Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? And those good old boys are taking, putting their money where their mouth is, and I think they're in the wrong spot. Let's go with Minnesota plus 105 straight up. Pay that man his money, because that's what's going to happen. All right. Kansas City, probably the remaining best team in football right now, taking on the LA Chargers in the Sunday nighter. This game was flexed in, and this will be, I think it was Cincinnati, Pittsburgh was supposed to be in this spot, but obviously the right choice by NBC to move this game in. Kansas City right now is a 7-point favorite, and if you tease them, they're going to be +1. Sorry, they're a 6-point favorite, and if you do, my apologies again, 5-point favorite, and if you do tease them, you'll have them down to a +1 to maybe end off your Sunday teaser. I can't see Kansas City losing here. I know LA's getting some guys back. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are huge, but I just see pressure on Justin Herbert, and I just can't see that the Chargers, after what I've seen against the 49ers, really give Kansas City a threat. I think Kansas City is way too powerful. And give me Patrick Mahomes any day of the week on a primetime game, on the road, in LA, over 294.5 yards passing. He is a magician out there. And 300 plus, I feel comfortable taking it. Not a problem at all. Monday nighter, the San Francisco 49ers take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, here's what I'm thinking here, is that we don't know who's going to be starting for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is a game-time decision. However, Colt McCoy is a great backup. He seems to come in, like last week, wins. Last year, same thing. He comes in and he wins. So here's what I would say about this, is that maybe Colt McCoy is a better answer this week, this time against San Francisco than Kyler Murray would be. I think Kyler Murray is obviously going to give you a chance to provide your franchise the opportunity to down the road, be a contender for the Super Bowl. I think he has that in him. I just don't think the current setup of the franchise that is the Cardinals has him in the best position to hone his talents. I think he's kind of out of control at the moment. And I think we're going to go through a revamp on the coaching staff for the Cardinals going into next year. And I think they have to do something to not waste Kyler Murray's prime years. And that's kind of what that's what may happen if they don't make a coaching change soon, and I think it's going to happen. But I'll take the 43.5 here. I think the 49ers, even though Jimmy Garoppolo his job is just to get it into explosive players' hands, and he has those explosive players. He has all sorts of weapons around him. So 43.5 on a Monday nighter, I'd say take it. Do it. You know what other football game is on Sunday? The Grey Cup. So for those fans out there, the Grey Cup is Canada's, for the CFL, it's the CFL Championship. It's been around over 100 years. And this year we have the Toronto Argonauts taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in neutral site of Saskatchewan. And like every other year, especially when the Grey Cup is out west, it's going to be cold as hell. But people are going to have their shirts off, drinking, partying, especially in Saskatchewan. It's going to be wild out there. They'll have a good time. And Winnipeg is won the last 2 Grey Cups. Obviously, they may have already had 3 straight, but one of the season, or the one of our 2 years ago, the season was lost due to COVID. So Winnipeg is the 5.5-point favorite. Some key bets I thought were pretty decent here was Andrew Harris, running back for Toronto. He is a focal point of the Argonaut offense, and him at plus 130 to score a touchdown, I think there's good value here. Even though I do think that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to win this football game, I think they got too much experience. Although Zach Collaros, quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, is not 100% guaranteed to play. He's a little questionable, but the odds are he's going to play, and he's going to lead this team to victory. Winnipeg's a minus 245 money line, which might be perfect for that Washington play I mentioned earlier to parlay it with. I think the Blue Bombers win this pretty handily. And also, I do think they'll run up the score a bit. 27.5 points to me seems low as a team total for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at minus 120. I'll put some money on that. Over 27.5. I think the Bombers are going to win. Even though I'm from Toronto, I just got to call it as I see it's going to pay me off. And that's going to pay me off. The Blue Bombers win their 3rd straight Grey Cup. All right, now since it's Friday, we're going to be heading into Saturday. And for you hockey fans out there, you know it's Hockey Night in Canada. So Hockey in Canada is 100,000 games out there. And we're going to kick it off here. So New Jersey's won 10 straight, and they come into Ottawa. New Jersey's on fire right now. They're on fire. I think they're not as good as 10 straight wins. They just came off an overtime win over the Leafs. They go into Ottawa tomorrow afternoon. This might be a letdown, but man, when the team's won 10 straight, you got to look at New Jersey at minus 140, either straight up and put a larger wager on to go for 11 straight, because Ottawa's struggling as well. Or you look at the minus 140 as a parlay to another game later on, but New Jersey's going to win this game. Buffalo takes on the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto, over 6.5. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this game. Buffalo puts up a lot of goals. I think the Leafs will wake up and win or lose. I think this game will be a 5-3 final. I don't really care if it's 5-3 or not, as long as it's over 6.5. I don't care if it's 14-0 final, to be honest with you. Chicago takes on Boston. Now, in the NHL, it's very hard, in my opinion, to predict, winners on a nightly basis. Not necessarily over-unders, which I think are probably the better play, but team-on-team matchups, especially Arizona winning games in Washington and Toronto, it just doesn't make sense. So, but I do think Chicago going into Boston. Boston's a minus 425. So I'm not picking Boston because, wow, that's an underdog bet. That's going to be a big payout. No, I think Boston takes care of business, especially on home ice. And I think the minus 425, if you want to get crazy on a bigger parlay like New Jersey, Boston, and the Leaf game over, or maybe you do an alternate total in the Leaf game for 5.5, that might be a three-game parlay that might suit it, because Boston's going to get it done at home. This team doesn't die. The big three, Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron, they just don't go away. And then you add in DeBrusque, Hall, they got Krejci back. They just got so many weapons. They got a tandem in net. It's weird. They're a winning organization, and they always make a run. So they'll make another run this year and have a great season to go with that. Here's a good pick, though. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets take on the Detroit Red Wings, and they're plus 115 at home. Columbus has won 2 straight. Detroit has had a great season, but they're coming off a Western road. They beat San Jose 2 nights ago, and I'm going to bank on that they have, off a long flight. It's not like they're coming home. They're going back on the road, just closer to home. Columbus, closer to Michigan. But I think that's going to be, we arrive on the plane, we get to Columbus, we play the game, but we're already thinking our own beds to sleep in. We got things to do. We got to get the garbage out the next day. That's what's on their mind. I think Columbus is good value at plus 115 tomorrow night. Philadelphia, Montreal. Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens. The Flyers are struggling. So John Tortorella has let this team go. They had a good solid start, and now Philadelphia's floundering. They're just not that good. I think Montreal is kind of on a bit of a roll despite their loss against Columbus last night. So I'll take Montreal minus 135, but also throw on an alternative total. I see at least 6 games in this. You notice that the over-under will be 6, but you throw in a Boston and you put an alternative total of 5.5. That might give you a few dollars, but there'll be at least 6 goals in that game. So that's my NHL. What else I got in the NHL? Do I have anything else in the NHL? Let's check the little notepad. Let's check it out. All right. Oh, actually, there's more. Pittsburgh, Winnipeg. Jets, plus 100 at home. They're playing well right now. Pittsburgh is not. Pittsburgh, has got a few wins lately, but just not. I don't see the value where Kyle Connor and the Winnipeg Jets at home on Pittsburgh, again on the road. I take the Jets, plus 100. There's value there. Sid the Kid is the man, but you know what? It's cold. Winnipeg's freaking cold, and Pittsburgh doesn't want to stick around too long and we'll get the hell out of there. But I think they're going to drop the points to the Jets. Carolina, Minnesota. Fleury looks like he's out. Goaltender for the Minnesota Wild. There might be a few goals scored in this game. So I'm going to take the over 6 on this one. Now, one of the probably most entertaining game of the day is going to be one of the late ones. And that's going to be the Vegas Golden Knights take on the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Jack Eichel versus McDavid. Vegas is the better team here. Vegas has got is rolling. Edmonton is not really. I mean, they're top heavy. They got the top talent. They got the two best players maybe in the world. So I got to say over 6.5. This is going to be like a 5-4 game, 6-4 game. They'll be fine. This game, just mark this down as a win if you take the 6.5 at -120. That is the NHL plays of the week. And now we also have college. College is almost wrapping up, at least from the point of all the massive Saturday games. And a few value picks that I see here on the NCAA board include TCU. TCU is visiting Baylor. Baylor is 6-4, TCU 10-0. TCU is only a 2.5-point favorite, which seems odd to me. TCU squeezes out wins. They're big wins. Whatever they need to do. They're 10-0. Why am I going to get off the TCU train right now? All right. So 2.5, way too low. I like TCU big time on this one, so go with it. And, Baylor just came off a 31-3 loss to Kansas last week. I don't see any reason why I would go against TCU in this. Texas, Kansas, this is more of a hunch, over 63.5. Two high-scoring teams, not maybe last week. Texas had a low-scoring game, obviously, against TCU, but Kansas puts up points. So 63.5, let's do it. And rivalry game, Oklahoma State taking on Oklahoma. Man, I think Oklahoma State will cover the 7.5, not win, but Oklahoma a heavier favorite. Oklahoma State's got more going on for them than Oklahoma does. I will take the points at 7.5. Oklahoma State, mark it in. Now a big game, and I think one of the reasons why the line is the way it is USC takes on rivalry UCLA. USC's got one loss. UCLA suffered their second loss last week against Arizona, which they shouldn't have lost. And, UCLA has had a strong season. It's a red flag to me that UCLA choked last week against Arizona. And USC being a 2.5-point favorite, to me, there's extra value there. I think UCLA maybe showed they were a bit of a fraud, and USC's the real deal. So 2.5 is way too low. Way too low. And you got to imagine those stands are going to be split with red and blue. So USC is the play at 2.5. So that is all that's going on as far as this week's plays. Again, tomorrow I'm hoping to record our World Cup preview with Johnny Charts, talk about some value there, and one of the biggest sporting event in the world. And it's our first overrated experience kind of specialty podcast. Like to get more people on the podcast so we can kind of go back and forth and really know some of the players out there, some of the things that they enjoy betting on. Maybe we learn a few things from some of our guests, and I hope we can learn a few things from Johnny Charts. But what we do know about the World Cup and some other breaking news there is that beer sales will not be happening at the stadium. So 2 days before the tournament, it was decided that the Qatari government is now going to ban no alcohol sales at the stadiums. They'll I believe, allow in the fan fest areas of alcohol. So you'll if you see a Budweiser in the stands, it's Budweiser Zero. I am sure people who have booked their vacation and banked on this World Cup experience well ahead of time, getting the news that they will not be able to enjoy a cerveza in the stadium while watching their team play. I'm pretty sure very happy about that news and excited that they invested all that money to go over and watch while, I'll be sitting in my living room drinking a few cold ones and having no problem if I want to go to the fridge and get a third or fourth or not. So good luck to you out there, people. But we'll enjoy the World Cup anyway. So anywho, that's the overrated experience for this week. Hope your bets are profitable, and all I'll say is over and out. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.